The wind howled through the forgotten vale, rustling the trees like whispered secrets. Lillian Everhart pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, her boots sinking into the mossy earth as she walked deeper into the ruins of Ravenwood Castle. She had spent years studying plants with healing properties, but there was one she had never found: an enchanted rose, a flower of legend said to bloom only once every 100 years. It was whispered that whoever possessed it could mend broken hearts, cure any ailment, or perhaps even break an ancient curse. With a lantern in hand, she stepped through the crumbling archways of Ravenwood, her breath hitching as she took in its once glorious halls. Now nothing more than echoes of the past. Marble columns lay shattered, vines creeping up their surface. A faint scent of roses and old magic hung in the air. Then something caught her eye. At the center of the ruins, beneath an open dome where moonlight poured in like liquid silver, stood a statue of man. His face was frozen in an expression of longing, his hands poised as though reaching for something he could never hold. His chiseled features were unbearably lifelike, every detail carefully carved: his wavy golden hair, his strong jaw, the faintest trace of sadness in his lips. His eyes, though stone, seemed to gaze into her soul. Lillian's heart pounded, her fingers trembled as she reached out, brushing away the ivy that had crept over his form. The moment she touched him, a strange warmth pulsed beneath her fingertips. Then she saw it. At his feet, growing from a crack in the stone pedestal, was the enchanted rose. Its crimson petals shimmered, as though woven from silken moonlight, but it was wilting, its petals trembling, ready to fall at any moment. She had found it, but something about this place felt wrong. The wind stirred, carrying a whisper voice, faint and desperate. "Help me," Lillian gasped, stepping back. Her eyes darted around. "Who's there?" Silence. Then her gaze returned to the statue. "Please," the whisper came again, this time from within her own mind. Her chest tightened. Was she imagining things? Or was it him? Something in her heart told her this was not just a statue. Swallowing her fear, she knelt before him. "Who are you?" she whispered. No answer, only that lingering warmth beneath the stone. She looked at the rose again. Something told her this flower was more than rare. It was the key. Acting on instinct, she gently plucked the rose and brought it to her lips. Then, without truly knowing why, she leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss to the statue's cheek. The moment her lips met the stone, the air shifted. The wind roared through the ruins, the ground trembling beneath her. The stone cracked, lines of light racing across the statue's surface. Lillian stumbled back as pieces of rock crumbled away, revealing warm flesh beneath. And then he moved. The statue's rigid form melted away, revealing a mantle, golden-haired, with stormy blue eyes that burned with emotion. He gasped, his chest rising for the first time in centuries. Lillian's eyes widened as she stumbled backward. He fell to his knees, breathing raggedly. His eyes found hers, filled with something between shock, gratitude, and yearning. "Free," he whispered. A moment of silence stretched between them before he lifted his hand to his face. Feeling the warmth of his own skin for the first time in 300 years, tears burned in his eyes. He turned back to Lillian, his voice shaking. You saved me." She swallowed, still in awe. "Who are you?" He gave a small, breathless laugh, one that held both sorrow and relief. "Prince Elias of Raven." Lillian felt her heart skip a beat. The lost prince. She had grown up hearing his legend, how a sorceress Morgana had cursed him when he refused her hand in marriage, how the king had spent years searching for a way to undo the spell, only to die without ever finding the answer. Elias ran a hand through his hair, still reeling from the flood of sensations, the cold no longer biting at his soul the way his heartbeat thrummed against his ribs, the way he could finally look at her, really look at her. He turned to the rose, now nothing but petals scattered across the stone floor, the last sign of his curse. His gaze met hers again, filled with a gentle, quiet wonder. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lillian," she answered softly. Elias reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against hers with warmth that had been denied him for centuries. "Lillian," he murmured, his voice filled with deep gratitude. She looked up at him, her own heart beating faster than it ever had before. And in that moment she realized this wasn't just a broken curse. It was the beginning of something far greater, a love that had defied time itself.